Hey everybody, good evening. Welcome to tonight's IncrediChat here live, brought to you by IncrediCon, Hudson Valley's family-friendly comic and pop culture fest. Thank you once again to everybody that's going to be tuning in on our Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe to us. We got some great events coming up. But tonight, our great event is the guests that we have with us. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome to tonight's show our special guest tonight. If you know television, he's been on so many programs. Welcome to tonight's IncrediChat, Keith Szarabajka. Hello, Keith.
Hello.
I got it
right. Good to see you.
Yes, thank you
for inviting me on.
No, again, thank you so much for joining us tonight on the show. And folks watching, check out Keith's website at darktale.tv. So, Keith, like I just said, you have been on so many television programs going back into
lost count. I don't even remember them all, honestly.
I mean, I guess the first question I really would like to ask you is acting. Why acting? How did you get into acting?
Well, let's see. I wanted to be a saint until I was 14, and then I decided I wanted to be an astronaut, but my eyesight was too bad, so I ended up becoming an actor. I think that was the progression, you know.
So like when you were in school, were you doing like a lot of theater? Your plan?
I went to a military boarding school for boys run by nuns from 3rd grade to 8th grade. So I was on parade all the time. I was an officer, I guess. You know.
Oh wow!
And so I kind of got into the pageantry of the whole thing, and I ran the drill team. You know, we threw our guns and stuff up in the air and did intricate little maneuvers. So I guess that was part of it. You know, my mother put me into tap shoes, and I had to sing and dance with my cousin Joyce when I was 4 years old. You know, at the Bedford Park Community Center, Joyce and I sang "I've Been Working on the Railroad," and it was the most terrifying thing I think I've ever done in my life. But once the audience kind of appreciated it, so once you get that sense of laughter and applause, I don't know whether they were laughing at me or laughing with me, but I got hooked. You know.
Well, you know, it's funny that you mentioned that. I was watching an interview with I think it was William Shatner the other night, and he actually said something similar to that about like that laughter and that applause when you are in front of an audience and you hear that laughter. You may tell, and again, I don't know if you're Shatner, but the comment was that every time you're live or you're doing a joke or something and you hear the laughter from the audience, the reaction from the audience, it could be the applause too. It's almost like a drug.
It is,
right?
It feeds you. Well, you know, I'm not sure what exact hormone it releases, but it releases a pleasure hormone, you know, and so you want it more, you know. It's kind of like eating chocolate, you know, or having sex or having a drink, you know. You go, oh, this is good. I should do this more. I should do more of this, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, because and it could be the same joke over and over again. It just hits, like you said, that right moment in your body then, right?
Yeah, and like in a really good play, or you know, or when you're on in an evening, whatever it is you're doing, you know, you kind of ride the audience like a surfer rides a wave. You know, you find what the rhythm is, and you just keep going with it, you know, and you just try to ride that wave as long as you can, and it's really fun, you know. Of course, it's terrible when you bomb. So,
well, I mean, I guess that's the one thing as a person getting into acting, right? As a young actor, even, right? Like there is a lot of that, you know. There's a lot of rejection, and there's a lot of that bombing because you're trying out new things as you go. I would assume, right?
It's constant. I mean, yeah, as an actor, that's what you live a life of constant rejection, and it's like if you get hired once out of 100 times, you're doing pretty well, you know, and hopefully that one out of the 100 times will be a job that lasts for a while. I mean, I was lucky. I think the second professional audition that I ever had was for the Organic Theater in Chicago, and I was with them for 6 years after that. I was 19 years old, and I got to travel all over the United States. I got to go to New York twice, you know, Broadway and off Broadway, and got to go to Europe with them, you know. So it was, and to England. So it was which England is a part of Europe, but sort of a slightly different aspect of it. But yeah, it was. You never know when the brass ring's going to come along. You never know what's going to.
Yeah, yeah, you got to go grab it then at that time,
and you got to be able to recognize it when it comes.
Yeah, and now let me ask you. So, I mean, you've done a lot of theater. You started really working in film and television in the '80s. Your original roots are in theater, like you're mentioning.
My first. I mean, I did theater in high school.
Yeah,
I went to 2 different high schools. One was Campion Jesuit High School in Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin, which was a Jesuit boarding school where they had a very, very, very developed theater program there, and little black box theaters, but a big theater too. But the black box was the one that I kind of fell in love with, and that's why I ended up working most of my life is in black box theater. I still run a theater company now, although I'm stepping down in the next month or so.
Oh wow!
I've been doing it for 6 years, and I'm done. It's hard. Let me put it that way. No, it's very rewarding, but it's okay. Let the younger people take it now.
Well, now let me ask you that. And I mean, you've been working in theater, from the beginning of your career up till now, up to the current times. And like you said, letting some of the younger people step into it. Do you feel that working live theater, and even with your own experience, working live theater really prepares you for film and television? Because I mean, it really is 2 different mediums, because live theater, you're doing the same thing night after night after night for the most part, and like you were saying, traveling around, say, a city, whereas on a film or a movie, you're portraying that character for one episode or one film, and then moving on to progressing the story. How did theater prepare you for
Well, what it does prepare you for is that you have to deliver in the moment. All right. That's the most important thing that theater will teach you, is that you have to be there now. Otherwise, you're going to be lost, and the audiences won't respond to you, and you'll be gone. And the same thing. But see, I know that theater and film are different. I mean, shooting a film is more like having constant tech, in theater. But the thing is, you have to be able to deliver here and now, because at any given moment on a theater, whether you're in the theater and it's a dozen people or 100 people or 1,000 people, or 3,000 people, wanting to see you, or you're on a movie set where it's 6 people or 75 people or 300 people hanging on your every fucking moment to do something. And you have to deliver then and there. You have to learn how to deliver then and there, And I think that that's what it prepares you for most.
Because there are
deliver now, be in the moment now, and deliver what needs to be delivered now in the way that it needs to be delivered. Yeah,
because certainly in theater there are no reshoots. You got to go with the flow.
No, but there's always the next night.
Exactly. But like you said, go with the flow. Something falls. Somebody flubs a line.
You got to learn to deal with it. You have to learn to okay, because I can promise you something will always happen, and it never fails. People go up. People. I was once in a production of Sirens of Titan at the Organic that Stuart Gordon directed back in 1977, and I was playing the dog Kazak in it, and I was practically naked, but I was in very good shape back then, and I had boxing gloves, and I had a painted face, and they'd made prosthetic fangs for me, and I had a collar, and I used to have to do a 30-second change. But I played Dennis Franz's. I'm going to drop names now. It was Dennis Franz's dog in it. He's played Winston Niles Rumford III, if you're familiar with Sirens of Titan, by Kurt Vonnegut. And I was his dog Kazak. And we were sitting in the wings waiting for Joe Mantegna, who had a bit to do out there, and he was the head of the Church of the Utterly Ridiculous, and he had a 2-minute speech that he was supposed to do. And Joe gets up there and he went up, and he just started going, and Denny and I could have gone on at any moment, but we were falling over laughing, watching him, and he kept looking, waiting for us to come out, and finally we went out, and rescued him. But it was very funny to watch him try to get through it, because he just went completely blank. And it happens to the best of us. It happens to everyone, or a piece of the set will fall down, or the light will fall out, or the lights will go out, especially when you're on tour in different places. Very odd things happen.
Yeah. And we have a comment here from one of the viewers, Matt Casper, and he says there's an entire play that's based on everything going wrong. I think that was
called Noises Off.
No, Noises Off. That's right.
Yeah, I saw it on Broadway. It was really funny. And the whole, it's a 3 act, I think it's a 3 act play. And the middle act is completely silent, in which it's all backstage and it's all mined by the actors backstage. And it's hilarious. It's the funniest part of the play. If you've never seen it, you should check it out.
Well, now, and I mean, aside from like learning to go with the flow, like you said, you traveled across the country, went over to England with that. I mean, as an actor, and Matt just said, that's the one. so that noise is off. I mean, I guess being around all these people, I mean, obviously with the acting troupe, you guys become a family. But I mean, you really got to, I guess, really learn and study people from different parts of the country, different parts of the world as you're doing this too, as well as your fellow actors. So when you're preparing for other roles, I'm sure you stole things from people that
absolutely. It's like you're, you know, as an artist, as an actor, a writer, painter, sculptor, musician, you have to be a sponge. You have to be ready to soak in whatever's around you. And then of course, as an artist, you have to then do something to it and then send it back out, you know, and that's what you take something from everywhere, you know.
Now let me ask you, so theater to television, I mean, you were on a lot of 80s shows, but obviously the one that most people remember you for in the 80s was The Equalizer. How did you transition from theater to television, and how did you get that part on The Equalizer?
I walked in and auditioned for it and they hired me. It turned out, you know, I had done it. The first TV episode I'd ever done had been in the first season of Miami Vice. I did something, I don't know, I played a character named Joey Bramlett, you know, it was called Swamp Thing or something like that, you know, and I played a nice hippie, you know, pot runner whose daughter was kidnapped by the evil Colombian cocaine dealers, you know, so it was whatever. It was pretty stupid, but it was fun, you know. But it turned out that the two guys that had written that episode of Miami Vice, Joel Surnow and Morris Hurley, also, and Joel Surnow later wrote 24. I think Morris did that too. Maurice Morris, you know. But they wrote this particular episode of The Equalizer. It happened to be the third episode of The Equalizer. And the director, Richard Compton, just really liked me, and Joel remembered me, and so they hired me. And it was a one-off. But for some reason, Edward and I hit it off, and you know, they liked my character, and they just kept bringing me back. And the second season, they had meant to make me a regular. I did like 4 the first season. Yeah. Second season, they had meant to make me a regular, but Jim McAdams says, "Oh, my people forgot to ask," you know. So I went and did a couple movies out of the country, and then came back and did and started doing the Equalizer as a regular, you know, at midway through the second season, and you know, that's the story from there on, you know, and that's just my story, and I'm sticking to it.
56 episodes, that's not too bad.
Yeah, that 56 my name are on. I think I'm actually in 48 or 49, 47, something like that. You know, because they actually didn't. They had to pay me for ones that they didn't use me for. And the third season, for some reason, there was a whole bunch of mishigas going on. You know, because Edward had a heart attack, and you know, I was arguably the second most popular character on the show. Mickey was, but they kept bringing in all sorts of people, and it was fun actually in many ways, because I got to meet Robert Mitchum and work with him, who was the coolest guy imaginable. You know, I remember sitting at lunch with him at a place in uptown in Harlem. It was like at 44th and 144th and Broadway, and I can't remember. I think it was Sophia's or Sophie's or something. I may have the name wrong of the soul food place, but we all went in there for lunch. We've been shooting since like 6 in the morning, and we all lined up. It was me and the DP and the director and Mitchum, then a couple of the other people. You know, I don't know if Edward was there or not. He may have been off that day, and the waitress comes up and she goes, "So what would you like to drink? Would you like something to drink?" And everybody's looking around like, well, it's lunchtime and we're working. And Mitchum goes, "I'll take 4 extra dry martinis, save the ice for the poor, ma'am." She goes, "Oh, okay." And she goes, "Do you want me to bring them one at a time or all at once?" He says, "Just line them up, ma'am." And then she brought them. And so I ordered a beer because I'm going to be Mitchum's buddy, you know, and so she lines them up in front of him, and he just takes them and goes bang, 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 bang. And it didn't affect him in the least. You know, still was able to work all day. I mean, he was, and he was a very nice man too. But he didn't do it all.
And you mentioned Edward Woodward, and Edward Woodward, like yourself, was a stage actor too. So I mean,
he was also the Tony Bennett of England. He had like 25 or 26 gold albums, English gold albums.
That I don't know.
Yeah, he was a great singer.
But I guess what did you learn with or share with him? I mean, because he's a legendary actor as well. Both coming from the world of theater now on this, crime police 80s drama show. Like what was that relationship like, coming from the similar backgrounds?
He just liked me and I liked him. We were very close. And after the show was over, I would stay at his place in England a lot of times with him and Michelle, his wife, and Emily, their daughter. He and I we were friends, I mean, he would invite me to dinner at his house. He would come to dinner at my house when we were working in New York. It was just very pleasant. We had a very collegial thing going on. But the one thing that I always remember is that there was this one speech that he had to do once, and he was all day, he was fighting to get it cut. He was on because he thought it was stupid. And he was fighting all day with the writers in LA saying, this is bloody idiotic, and finally they said, no, Edward, you have to do it. We have to have this in the shot. So he turned around, did it like it was Shakespeare and then walked away. And it was like, I wanted to applaud. It was so good what he'd done with it, and it's what I learned then is like, just do it, just bloody do it,
No, and that's really good advice. So,
and you have to commit 100%. Even if you don't want to do it, if you're going to do it, just do it.
Yeah.
I hate to sound like a Nike ad or whatever, but it's.
But but certainly in regards to, like you were saying earlier about being an actor, like you got to just go with it, roll with it,
Yeah.
and keep it moving. So I know we have a lot.
Stuff is going to happen all the time. I can promise you. And like one of the things on a movie or TV set is it's always funny. They're usually under some kind of pressure because time. They're always time challenged. But it's like what I've learned is that, and as a director, I've learned this as well, is that technicians always want to rehearse until they get it right. Actors should rehearse until they get it right the next time. All right, they because you want to get that on film. All right. Mm-hmm. And it's a big difference that I've learned, and you got to figure out a way to balance both.
So let me just ask, because we have some questions about your voice work, which I definitely want to get into. With the Equalizer, I mean, we had the movies with Denzel. We had there's a new series with Queen Latifah on now. Have you watched any of those? Even for this new series, has like anybody from CBS said, hey, you want to maybe do a guest shot on this?
No one has. In fact, for the Denzel Washington movies, when they first came out, my agents inquired, saying, "Well, Keith was arguably the second most popular character on the show. Mickey was, and is there anything for him in there?" He said, "No, we want to remove ourselves as much as possible, distance ourselves as much as possible from the original show." Yeah. And so whatever. But I'm not a star. I mean, I work a lot. I'm what I call a working actor, but who knows? I would think that it would help, old Equalizer fans, to have me on it, but nobody's asked me, and they're on to their second season now with the Queen Latifah one. And to be honest with you, I tried watching it, and it's not that it was bad. It's just sort of like watching someone fuck your ex-girlfriend,
And because it's not the memories that you have. Absolutely.
No, so it's just different, and I'm not saying it's bad, and I think she's actually good, but it's just, and Adam Goldberg's good, but it's not an easy watch for me,
Got you. I mean, and I think that's with some of the reboots of television now. That's how it is. Everything that was old is new again, and the new twist. But like you said, I think bringing somebody like you on would be a cool little like grab, a little pull back to the original show. All right, so we have a couple of comments here. Jan Berry says, "Hi Keith, And I don't
Hello,
know.
Jen.
She
I
says,
know she's in England. Hi, Jen in England. It's about, isn't it about 2 a.m. where you're at? Hello, wifelets. How are you, all of you? There's a
and
little group on the Mickey Kostmayer appreciation page that call themselves my wifelets.
oh, I didn't even know there's an appreciation page. Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's on Facebook.
Nice. And then there on the other feed that I have coming in here, there and I'll have to connect you with this guy. He's actually an animator out in LA. He's worked on some great things for, like, he worked on like Real Adventures of Johnny Quest and Curious George, but Animaniacs, a lot of cartoons.
I worked on Curious George.
Oh,
I did a bunch of voices on the Curious George, the first movie.
Oh, I will have to connect you guys, but his name's Lance Falk, and he just says you're fantastic, and he's also your chosen. You are also his chosen celebrity doppelganger. I'll put you guys in contact out in LA.
Okay, that's interesting. All right, sure.
And you know, when he mentioned that, I see it. So now, animation wise, because we're having a lot of questions. Teen Titans, you were Trigon.
I think I did 1 episode or 2 of that, you know, and then they replaced me with a
different actor.
Yeah, Kevin. I can't remember. He's he's a great guy.
Michael Richardson.
Kevin Michael Richardson. Thank you. I was going to say Kevin Richards, but I couldn't. Yeah, whom I've worked with. He's a great guy, and whatever. Yeah. You know, it's like you can't take it personally, honestly.
Yeah, but I mean, outside of Teen Titans, you were on Thornberrys, Angry Beavers, Real Monsters.
Thornberry, we meet again.
There we go. Batman Beyond. I mean, tons of shows, you know, and video games too. G.I. Joe. So you've done a little bit. Star Wars Rebels, which is on Disney Plus now. People love Rebels.
Cicator Visago at your service.
So again, theater to live action film and television work, voiceover.
It's all acting. It's all about, you know, connecting with the material and connecting with the people around you, and that's what acting is about, is connecting. You know, some people think differently, but that's not how I work.
Now, I'm going to ask you, of those 3 mediums, right? I guess 4 if you want to say. I'll put film and television as one. Which is your preferred method of, like, which is your favorite acting?
I like them all. I do, honestly. I like them all. You know, I love being able to do a movie or a TV show where you actually get to do the stuff and the action, you know. But then I love doing the video games, you know, where you do the voices and you kind of get, and it's fun to do. And I love doing cartoons; they're really fun to do, you know. And the thing about video games, unless you're doing, you know, motion capture, which I've done a few on, you know, like what was it, Dead Space and L.A. Noire, you know.
Yeah, great game.
What was the and Halo 4 when I was the didact, the didact, you know. We are forerunners, guardians of all that exists. You know, I love doing them all. Honestly, it's really, to me, when you can and when you have good material and you can connect with it, and the people with whom you're working are great, there's nothing better. And theater is the same way, you know, except you make less money in theater, you know. But whatever. Sometimes it's more rewarding, though. You know. Yeah,
well, I'll definitely support that rewarding with the theater thing, because you get that instant gratification from the fans.
You do, you know, and it's there, you know, and it really, when we talked about the audience thing before we came on, it's kind of like surfing, you know, you kind of find that wave of the audience, the emotion, and you try to ride with it as long as you can. And when you fall off, you try to pick it up and catch it again, you know.
We have one question from my other feed here. And I guess he says, what advice would you give to an aspiring voice actor? But I mean, let's just put it as, you know, any genre actor, but we'll focus on voice actor. What advice would you give to somebody who wants to get into that business?
Do it. You know, I mean, what advice can I give you? Just do it. If you want to do it, just start doing it, you know, and don't give up, you know, if you really believe in yourself. You know?
And like you said, be ready for that rejection, but take that and, you know,
be ready, because I'm telling you, if you don't like rejection, you don't want to be in this business.
Over here we have someone said Rebels was fire. Rebels was a good Rebels was a good show. We have a question about Real Monsters. Sarah wants to know, how is it working with Charlie Adler?
Oh, Charlie Adler's a miserable prick, and please tell him I said so.
I know Charlie too. He's like one of the best guys in the world.
But he's so high energy. He's really funny.
I love him.
Yeah.
I love Charlie. So, voice acting, Equalizer. Another great role that you did was on Angel as Daniel Holtz. How? I mean, I know you're gonna say, "Well, I just auditioned and went for," but
I actually didn't. I didn't audition.
you didn't audition. So how did that role come about then?
Well, I had worked on a show previously with David Greenwald,
Okay.
John McNamara, who wasn't on. But they had written a show called Prophet with Adrian Pasdar, Lisa Zane, and me. You know, with that we only did eight episodes of. It was one of the greatest pieces of TV I've ever been part of, and I wish it had run forever. It just was ahead of its time. You know, it was in 1995, 96, and it was so good. You know, that's all I can tell you. And Greenwald called me up and said, "Would you want to do this part? You know, it might be 8 episodes. I don't know. We'll see." And we weren't sure if he was going to be British or Dutch or German. You know, and we finally ended up him being, you know, with a kind of standard received British pronunciation. You know, and I can tell you this: I only met Joss Whedon once. And that was after the show was over, and I was with Juliet Landau, and we were marching on the writers during the writers' strike, and I think it was 2004 in front of 20th Century Fox, and that's the only time I ever met Joss Whedon.
Wow.
You know, but Greenwald, you know, hired me, and I got to meet some really wonderful people, you know, and work with some great actors, and you know, like David and Jay August, you know, and Tim Minear, who was one of my favorite writers ever, you know, I just it's a show that was very dear to my heart. You know, I'm sorry that they killed me off. For 200 years I slept. For 200 years I dreamt of nothing but this moment.
And that's and I mean, what have, like, you know, like you were the Van Helsing to Angel, essentially, you know.
Yeah.
I think, and a great character, and then like really your character came and threw their whole world into disarray. Like you put that show on its edge, you know, with the taking of the baby and everything. Like my God.
Desperate times call for desperate measures.
Yeah.
And people say that that Holtz is a villain, and I go, well, wait a minute. Angel, when he was Angelus, killed my wife, ate my infant baby. He and Darla, and then turned my darling 11-year-old daughter into a vampire, forcing me to dust her, and I'm the villain.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So and again, like that's, you know, yes, to all the Angel fans, you know, you were the villain, but like you said, there was that motivation of that character that was really driven by the emotions of what Angel did, Angelus did in that prior life. And I'll ask you.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, well, I was gonna say with the fandoms too. Like, do you have people that, like, when people recognize you, or you know, when the show is even on? Like, because I remember, I don't know so much now, but like Buffy and Angel fans are like die hard Buffy and Angel fans. Did you ever have any interesting conversations with, oh my God, I can't believe you took the baby, and you know, you were going after them, you're such a horrible person and stuff?
Well, I mean, it's every conversation is what I just said to you. They say he killed my wife. He ate my baby, and then turned my darling 11-year-old daughter into a vampire, forcing me to dust her, and I'm the bad guy. That's the conversation that's constant. You know? Oh, you're such a bad guy. I go to England a lot for these.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like I from between 2003 and now, I've probably been to England 20 times. You know.
Oh my gosh.
And it's always been fun. You know, I go with Star Fury conventions usually. Yeah. Sean Harry, who's become a close friend of mine, you know.
Yeah.
And now he brings me over for supernatural cons, you know.
Well, I wanted to go into that too, because so, you know, Angel, your time on Angel ended, and then, you know, you did some other stuff too, but then your other most recurring thing was on Supernatural, which again, another CW show. What was the difference between that and Angel? Again, kind of this paranormal kind of stuff. And how did that role come about?
Well, that role came about because Eugenie Ross Lemming and I have known each other since 1972, and her best friend was my best friend, you know. And when a woman named Roberta Custer, and she passed away, unfortunately, in like 2015, I want to say, you know, suddenly. and we both spoke at her memorial, and we both spoke rather eloquently and humorously, if I may say. And Eugenie turned to me and she goes, "I'm putting you on my fucking show." And sure, and then I ended up doing, I was supposed to do more, but she would always write me in, and then her husband Bobby Singer who was the executive producer, would write me out. So for whatever reason, but I did 9, and I was supposed to do the very last finale, but and I was actually supposed to be shooting it at this time last year, but just before I left, they shut everything down because of COVID. And then when they finally did shoot the finale in the fall, they decided it was only supposed to be there for one day, and this one shot. And they decided they didn't want to pay for me to spend 2 weeks in quarantine in Vancouver. So, and I couldn't go, So it was unfortunate because I dearly love that show. I love that character. I love the boys. They were just the greatest. Jensen, and Jared and Misha, and Alex, even, although he came on the last couple of years. I just loved working on it. Serge Ledouceur, the DP, was just the kindest, gentlest, most competent person I've ever met in my life, and everyone on the crew was just like there, and everything was done right, from breakfast in the morning to signing out at night. It was, and they just treated you extraordinarily well. I felt, I just love that show. I'm so sorry that it ended. I would have done it forever,
Well, I mean, you talk about doing it forever. I mean, and you're mentioning all these great things about it. I mean, they definitely were doing something right on there. 15 seasons. I mean,
oh yeah, they could have kept it going. It's just that the boys decided they wanted to do something else,
Yeah, I mean, an incredible run for a television show, nowadays.
Pretty much, as far as I know, the CW said to them that they could do the show as long as they wanted to. I kept trying to talk them into saying, look, Gunsmoke ran 22 seasons, you guys, come on,
Yeah, because I mean, and I think that's pretty much in the CW. A lot of their shows run maybe like 5 to 7 seasons, and
at most, usually. I mean, Angel ran 5, Buffy ran 7 or 8, was it? I think.
Well, they did like, I think 4 or 5 on CW, and they went over to UPN. Right. But yeah, and I think Smallville was like 10 seasons. But yeah, so yeah, before a show like that, and the thing with Supernatural was the following never ever went away. Like,
no, it didn't, and it's still out there. And it's like, I do have someone who books me into conventions now for that, although they keep getting canceled because of COVID, or postponed. I was supposed to have done 2 or 3 by now, and now they've all been pushed to like next winter, or next fall.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Hopefully, now that I'm vaccinated, I'll be able to go wherever. You
got vaccinated?
Oh yeah, double. I got 2 Moderna doses. I'm now 5 weeks and 2 days past my last dose. So, yay. You
are good. I have some other questions here about The Dark Knight. You were in the movie The Dark Knight. Mm-hmm. What do you have any memories from that film, working with Heath Ledger? Or
Heath was just the nicest, kindest man imaginable. He was such an incredibly creative actor. It was a complete pleasure to work with him. I couldn't have asked for a better scene partner. He and Gary Oldman couldn't have been nicer, and Maggie Gyllenhaal. I didn't have too much to do with Christian Bale. He was, he's nice enough, but I mean, that suit, that they have to keep him in an air conditioning unit,
Yeah.
And so you just never got to deal with him, at all. I mean, I think I met him twice, just to say hi, and once he was standing in the darkness behind me in a scene, that was, and I didn't even know he was there, honestly.
Right.
But it was, I mean, Christopher Nolan is a genius, and he knows it. He really is. And it's like, okay, I'd love to work with him again someday. Who knows though? I don't think he likes me anymore, but we'll see. You never know.
But again, and I mean, and that was a huge Hollywood movie. So I can imagine, again, you're using your theater, you're using what you did in the theater, getting it right that first time. But I can imagine, like, just effects wise and camera angles, the multiple takes and shots they probably had to do over and over again for that.
No, you'd be surprised. I mean, Chris Nolan really had it well planned out. I mean, yeah, it was, he, it wasn't a movie where we did a lot of retakes. You know, I mean, it was kind of, you know, he and Christopher Nolan. I mean, there are other directors that I work with that are good that way. You know, it's 1, 2, and if you're doing a third one, there's something wrong. You know, and I remember working on Perfect World with Clint. You know, and Kevin Costner. You know, Kevin's he's okay. You know, he's a nice guy, but he would often come. He wasn't one of those. He was an actor that kind of learned his lines. Some people come prepared, like me. I just come. I know everything. Everything's set, and I have a plan that I then, you know, change as we, you know, as circumstances dictate, or the director does, or whatever, you know. But it's like some people learn their lines on other people's rehearsals and stuff, you know. And Kevin would always go, you know, Clint, I had a great time. I have a great idea. It'd be after the second take or third take, you know. And Clint would go, well, Kevin, no, I think we got it. We're moving on, you know. And he'd go, no, Clint, really, I got something else. You go, Kevin, I'm the director. And then he'd walk away. And I learned so much about being a director from that. You know, it's like, I'm the director, and then just walk away, you know.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, and that, I mean, Kevin Costner, Clint Eastwood. I mean, I guess, yeah, Clint Eastwood has some more weight outside from being just the director too, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, and it also was his production company, you know, wasn't it?
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Perfect World. I mean, Clint was great in it. It was actually probably the best work that he's ever done, because Clint really kept a pretty tight rein on him, you know. And you know, I had someone who worked on Dances with Wolves. That was an ex-girlfriend of mine. You know, I won't say her name. Mm-hmm. But she said that sometimes they would do 20 and 30 takes. Mm-hmm. You know? And it's like, I honestly don't think that that's necessary, you know, especially if you know what you want, and you know how to, and you know what you're looking for, you know, and you're prepared, you know.
Well, and that's the thing too. You guys are all professionals, so you kind of know what to bring to the table that first or second time. And
I think that's part of the benefit of being in the theater. You would never go on stage without having memorized your lines. Why would you go in front of a camera where even more people are going to see you? I mean, it's a ridiculous thought, you know. Sorry, you know.
No, 100%. I can agree to that. Let me ask you now, going back to the theater, and I mean, even, you know, television work. You know, you currently are working in the theater. How are things changing, and how do you see things?
Well, for the last year and 15 months, you know, everything's been online. At first it was on Zoom, you know, and now we've graduated. You know, we learned to do work on OBS Ninja, it's called, and it's the stuff that weathermen get photographed in front of, you know, taped in front of for a green screen, and you can make. And we have done this. I'm actually doing a comedic space soap opera right now. That we just finished filming the second episode. I'm editing the first right now, and I was just uploading all the material for the second one to start editing that. I actually took an editing course in the fall at the university where I teach. You know, so as a professor, that's one of your I'm an adjunct. You know, I'm not an associate or full professor, but
yeah.
But it's one of the, you know, it's one of the perks of the job is you get to take courses, you know, and it's great. I got to take this editing course. It was an incredibly steep learning curve because I'm kind of a Luddite, you know, but when it comes to the digital, but I've learned a lot, and I actually can edit now, you know, so I'm kind of proud of that. And but what we're doing is you know, this comedic space soap opera in 6 episodes called In Search of a Pig, a PIG, a pandemic immunity generator. You know, and it's the adventures of Captain Dakota James, the Amelia Earhart of space, and her second in command mechanic, onboard mechanic, and therapeutic sex partner Fred. You know, who are. And their AI intelligence, Cherie, who's a French version of Siri, who's very snarky. And they go around trying to they're hunting down Pandemic, you know, who's the lord of all viruses, computer and otherwise, you know.
No, I like that. Where can people see that? Or will people be able to?
We're gonna hopefully it'll be. Yeah, stay tuned. It'll be streaming somewhere. We're not quite sure where yet. You know, if anybody has any ideas, please feel free to contact me. You know, each episode's going to be like between 20 and 25 minutes long. You know, and there's the actors in it are great. Denise Crosby's in it actually. She plays Cherie. if you know Denise from Star Trek,
Yes.
Next Generation.
Yeah. And I think that's really, and this whole pandemic thing for the world of the arts, I really think there's a lot of great things that are going to come out of it, because people have had to rethink things, I mean, I think just artistically, the stories that are going to come from this experience, like you're poking fun, having these characters look at the pandemic, right?
Exactly. And it's how how people would we just recorded a whole episode about people who on a planet called Pfaff, where the Pfaffians are notably gaseous people and have to wear flat shoe catchers, which are masks on their anuses.
Oh my God, that's great.
And there are people who I won't go into it any further, but it's pretty funny.
No, it sounds good. Like you said, you got some great people on there.
Mm.
But let me ask, as an artist, do you see television is back? I mean, like they're doing television, they're doing film production. Where do you see theater headed? Because I mean, again, that is a true community experience.
Well, I think it's going to come. I think it's going to come back, to being, it's going to, theater is live. It's going to have to be. But I think that, and I think by the fall, people will be back into their spaces and back into performing. Knock on wood, But I think that there will always, because of what we've been doing for the past, year, digitally, I think that there will be from now on an important digital component to theater. In terms of getting your work, your material out to a larger audience. I think it has to be that way. And right now there are unions that are involved with it. SAG-AFTRA is actually much easier to deal with than Actors Equity is for some reason, which I don't understand at all. But it's. I think there's going to be that component to theater from now on, because you just look at like Center Theatre Group is putting out stuff constantly. You see stuff from the National Theatre in England, even the opera. You're seeing it. It's all digital, and staged digitally. Some of it's archival, but some of it's new and put together. And I think that that's going to be an important new aspect of anything anybody does.
Yeah, no, but again, I mean, it's good but there's nothing that beats being in that setting with everybody.
But actually being in there and where Al Pacino's actually spitting on you when you're in the front row, you can't pay enough for that. Let me put it that way.
No, absolutely. And like, I mean, as a person in the creative arts, like I've had this conversation with a lot of people. Do you think, and some shows are touching upon it, but do you think for the majority of like television shows or even films, like, do you think it's important for us to, or those forms of entertainment, do you feel it's important for them to touch upon what is going on in the world right now, or kind of just like keep it moving, like let's say like a show like Supernatural or Angel were still on right now, like would we be seeing them would they be tying events of the pandemic into the show? Do you know what I mean?
I think that you can't help but be affected by the sort of the world around you. I'm trying to think of the Weltanschauung. Is that what I'm trying to think of the term? I want to say the Gesundheit, but of your existence. You have to, you can't help but be affected by it. Now, whether it affects it directly or indirectly is a whole different matter. But I do think that those shows would be, as they were being filmed now, I think that they would reflect what was happening. In the world at large, how can they not? So like my little show, In Search of a Pig, it's it's definitely all about the pandemic and about or a pandemic, because it's actually set in the future, but we've had constant recurring multiple pandemics, and now they send out Dakota James to find a cure,
And outside of that show, are there any other projects that you are currently working on where people can look for you coming up, whether it be on television, film, or even the stage?
I'm in a movie called Invasion with Riz Ahmed and Octavia Spencer that we shot last fall, and it's I can't talk too much about it, but I can say that I'm in it, and it's directed by Michael Pierce, who I think he won a BAFTA award in 2018 for Beast, I think it was called. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but it was fun shooting it. Let me put it that way. And there was a lot of COVID stuff in that, not in the movie necessarily, but certainly surrounding it. You had to have 2 negative COVID tests 24 hours apart before you could even meet a crew member, So, and then every day you were tested, and then once a week. So I had quite a few. I had like, my scenes were like 3 days of actual shooting, but there was a lot of prep involved because there's a lot of visual effects and special effects and gun gags and blood gags in it. So,
And that's going to be coming to theaters, or is that going to one of the?
I honestly, I think it was Amazon.
Okay.
But it's either Amazon or Netflix. I don't know. There's so many different companies that you deal with when you're dealing with a production, and I don't know. I think it was Netflix, but I could be wrong. It could have been Amazon. So, and it's going to be a feature. I'm pretty sure.
Nice. And then theater wise, you're working with your theater group out in LA. What are you guys currently doing?
Well, we're doing the.
Oh, you're doing that's your.
That's out of that theater company. Yeah.
Oh, very cool then. Excellent. No.
Using all company actors, from ESTLA and company directors and company technicians, and it was a make work project for it,
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess that's a way to keep everybody from the theater rocking and rolling during all these times too. No, that's
and we're doing it through the union, through SAG-AFTRA, and a new media contract, and so people are actually getting paid, so that's actually a good thing too. I'm a job creator.
No, but at this point in time, with everything going on, that's definitely what we need. Again, supporting the arts is the main thing here. That's what we got to do. I have another question here from my other feed. Somebody wants to know if you could be in a Marvel movie, what do you have a character that you would like to be?
No.
No. But if they offered you a part,
I'm not a big fan of the Marvel universe. It's sort of it's just the glut of it has just been too much for me, and I'm not their demographic. I'm a 68-year-old male, and I just don't think that's who their demographic is. But DC, I like DC better actually.
Right.
I'm very happy to be. I was very happy to be in The Dark Knight. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah. And you did the voice of Mr. Freeze for Young Justice.
Yeah.
So you had a couple of DC roles there too. So you do have your foot in the DC universe, anyways. Then so
yeah, and I think I've done some Marvel stuff, but I couldn't even tell you what, honestly.
Gotcha.
I just they kind of lost me. It's the same thing that happened when I was about 12 or 13. I was very into comic books, and suddenly there was all these things as like Justice League versus this, Avengers versus that, and this that, and I finally went, I can't watch it. I can't read this anymore. Sorry. It's too incestuous,
Yeah. Well, I mean, and we were talking about television and going back to like the Equalizer. Like it was cool watching a lot of those shows from the 80s that a lot of them that you were on too. Those were shows that if you missed an episode, it really wasn't the end of the world.
Right. And it's like Supernatural is sort of that way. Angels sort of, although my season in Angel, it was kind of a story through line that, and I think that they kind of, but there are one-offs, and it's like, the Equalizer didn't necessarily have a continuing story. Yeah. Each one was, it was like regular TV back in the 60s and 70s. It was, each episode was pretty much a one-off, except it had regular characters in it, but it was like standalone, and okay. Yeah,
and that like little hour movies. Jan Barry wants to know: is there a role you would not play for any amount of money?
Yes, Jan Barry's husband.
There you go, Jan Barry. And then we have James Richter here. He just compliments you. Love your voice work. Love your work's also amazing. So much talent.
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you to recognize that. You know, I've been lucky and blessed to, you know, I'm still working, so I'm happy to do that. You know.
Yeah, no.
I can't actually say the projects I'm working on right now, so I'm on an NDA. So.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, as long as things are moving and maybe
they're moving, you know, and I do a lot of audiobooks and you know, I did Invasion. I hope I do something soon again, you know, but you never know. You know, you go through dry periods and you go through periods where it always seems that I get three things that happen at the same time. It's like suddenly it's like everyone has to have me on a particular day at the same time. So that always, I don't know why, but when I was younger, it used to be 3 movies would hire me at the same time and I'd have to pick one to do, you know. So now, you know, now it's not quite as big, but it's the same. It's a similar sort of ethic, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, you said you're working on things now too, and I mean, again, obviously you can't say, but if you're doing animation, I gotta say that is one of many mediums that is really thriving during this pandemic because people took their, you know, that's stuff that people are doing from home and producing.
Yeah, I have my own little home recording booth. You know, it's not big. It's a closet that I've, you know, converted, but it works, you know.
Yeah,
and I've done several jobs out of there, you know, which I'm grateful for. You know.
Yeah, and I think after this pandemic, we're gonna get a lot of animation and games from this. Jan Berry says, "You love me, really."
If you say so, Jan.
So Keith, this was really great tonight. I appreciate you taking the time to join us. I put the link down there, darktale.tv. So if anybody wants to get some more information about you, and I mean, obviously you're on the social media platforms too, so people can locate you on there as well.
If they wanted a picture, send me a stamped self-addressed envelope, care of Ensemble Studio Theater, LA, at Atwater Village Theater, 3269 Casitas Avenue, Atwater Village, LA, CA 90039. Okay.
And I'll put that up. I'll put that up on the screen and in the feed too, so everybody can see that. Let me I'll put that right here. Sorry. But yeah, no, this was great tonight, Keith. And again, thank you for offering that to the folks that are watching if they want.
Yeah, and I'm glad to even visit digitally back to the upper Hudson Valley there. I love it up there.
Well, no, listen.
I used to go rock climbing in the Schwanagunks all the time.
Mohonk.
Yeah.
Sure you've been there. Yeah, there you go. And listen, there's the address. Just put that tour care of Keith there, right? That's the right address.
Well, care of Ensemble Studio Theater. Make sure it's there because there's 4 theaters at that location.
Gotcha. Ensemble Theater. All right, cool. But yeah, no. Soon. Oh, we just had one more question for you. I think we talked about this before, but James wanted. Do you enjoy working on voiceover or regular acting, movie, TV?
Yes.
Yes, to all.
Yes. Yes to all.
But yeah, no, certainly once the world reopens and we can have you out here to join us for one of our IncrediCons, we would love to have you come back here to the Hudson Valley in person. And
sure,
it would be a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah. As long as it's not midwinter, but even then it might be fun to have a change from LA in the winter, because you know, being from Chicago and having lived in New York for 15 years, I do sometimes miss the seasons. I have to admit. You know?
Yeah, well, it was a beautiful spring day here in the Hudson Valley today. It was nice from the snow that we had this year.
Yeah, good.
So again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'll just end the show, and if you just hang out in a minute when we close up, and we'll just wrap up. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next week on IncrediChat with Lauren Stone. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.